Hey everyone, thanks for joining. John here, software engineer with about 10 years of experience. I'm the lead maintainer of some open source projects, including Latterly, a platform that teaches you to learn to code. And I have a PhD in economics where I studied the return to post-secondary alternative credentials, including coding boot camps and so forth. Today we are working on a research paper for GPT-4 productivity analysis of economic research in particular. A bunch of unique things about this study. One, it's the first to dive into economic journal-level publication writing in particular, as opposed to some generic top-level assessment of research productivity. It's particular to economic research, and we know that generative AI, large language models, and GPT-4 very significant in their performance by the particular task and the particular topic. Indeed, this paper goes beyond the level of economics into the topic level, and we notice some nuances which are intuitive once you capture them. For example, well-studied topics, GPT performs better than niche topics. Totally intuitive when you realize that there's like a training set differential there. Other stuff too, we create a plugin forest prompt technique that builds on top of the tree of thoughts prompt technique, and it builds on top by using plugins which are uniquely available in GPT-4. Using GPT-4 at all is unique compared to much of the research in generative AI, ChatGPT, large language models. You'll see a bunch of papers that say like you shouldn't use ChatGPT for research because it hallucinates citations. And then you look under the hood and they're looking at GPT version 3.5, which is substantially inferior. And they may or may not be using standardized prompt engineering techniques. The plugin forest yielded 0 hallucinated citations. To give you a feel for the magnitude of difference here, 0 across multiple literature review summaries. That's another thing. Some of the Turing work you'll see related to the Turing test will have people view statements that might be a sentence in length. Did this come from AI or not? And they can't tell, and it's a sentence in length. These documents are a full page, multiple paragraphs, each paragraph having multiple sentences. So it's a significant difference there as well, which speaks directly to researcher productivity, right? The ability to actually do a one-page literature review summary automated or semi-automated is a really powerful thing. Okay, so here's the open source repository. Most of the work I do is open source, open data. Obviously, like email addresses and whatever, obfuscated. This is the part 3 stream. In the first stream, we did data cleaning, data wrangling. So we went and got the source data and cleaned up like apostrophes and locations where they shouldn't be and whatnot. The second stream, we did exploratory data analysis. And the main thing we're doing in the current stream is drafting the initial version of the paper. So this initial version will be marked down. You can see here I've already done an abstract. I created an abstract using GPT-4 and it wasn't very good, unfortunately. So I had it scan through some notes that I had and I asked it to construct an abstract, and it was not wrong. But there was some suboptimal anchoring. And I'll give you an example. In my exploratory data analysis, I kick off with a case study of document 8. And then I move on to generalizing the case study findings so document 8 is one of these essays that participants rated for quality, some by GPT, some by humans in a blind fashion. So we start off with document 8, which is one of the GPT authored papers, summary literature review papers, one pager. And we notice some things about that. And then we ask the question, does this generalize to other papers on different topics that GPT wrote? So we start with a case study, move to generalized case study, and then into the third section of results is regression analysis. So you can see how we move from case study, generalized case study, mean difference testing, some descriptive stats, and then regression is the final step. And the abstract GPT-4 constructed anchored on the case study. And so, and also it was like a 3-paragraph abstract. It wasn't like a highly academic abstract. So it was too long. And then one of these 3 paragraphs was all about the case study, which is like it's not extracting the important points properly. So it did sort of a summary task, but it didn't do a good job of pulling out the concentrated bits that matter for publication, the punchlines. So an abstract should not be done for academic purposes as a mere summary of your paper. You want it to highlight the value of your paper. What are you doing that's new? What are your findings, like your most important 1 or 2 findings? What are they? So GPT-4 didn't do a good job of that. So I ended up writing this by hand. Yo, I just sent my coding cousin this live so he can see it. Thank you so much. This live in particular, we won't be doing too much coding, I don't expect. Although we do need to construct a singular Boolean that was previously left out of exploratory data analysis. And when I was putting this draft together, I realized we're missing an important flag. That is the own author flag. So some of the documents are written by individuals that also took the questionnaire, and we need a flag to correct for that. So maybe we'll do a bit of coding. Thanks for sending it around. Hope they enjoy it. If you're liking the video so far, tap like, follow the page, and that will help the algorithm send it to other people. Okay, so how am I going about drafting this paper? Well, first of all, I know there are some table stakes, some basic standards for any paper. You need a title, abstract, your authors. Here's my co-author, Josh. We're going to want keywords. GPT-4 did suggest these. And it also, and then I reviewed it, right? So I'm not naively accepting suggestion. GPT-4 suggested these, and I took out some that I felt were irrelevant. And then I added the last 1, 2, or 3. It might have just been tree of thoughts that it didn't select. Also with the JEL codes, GPT-4 selected these, and it gave like 2 sentences about why, trimmed out the sentences. So these are table stakes. Front matter: title, abstract, authors. You would do email and affiliation. We'll do that later. Keywords, JEL. And then we go to background, methodology, results, conclusions, appendices. These are just your standard sections. And you can see I broke out the results a little bit because I have a flow of presentation that I would like to follow. And you can see I sort of just put in here that this is where my 3-model table will go. That might end up being a 4-model table after we do this additional Boolean, but I think not. I think it's going to be 3 in either case. And there's actually 2 regression tables. So there's 2 different dependent variables. So these 3 models go together because they explain quality. And then there's a different regression that's just a simple regression trying to calibrate GPT educational level. And so we say, hey, given that you were, so the dependent variable is authored by GPT, given that you were authored by GPT. Thanks for the follow. We simply regress the assigned educational level categorical variable. That's a single categorical variable that gets split into 3 dummies. So does the participant who's taking the questionnaire believe the document they're reviewing was written by an undergrad, a master's, or a doctorate? So those are the 3 dummies under the categorical variable of assigned educational level or perceived educational level. That's the participant is thinking about the education level of the author. And basically what we're trying to figure out is if you send people stuff that GPT wrote, and you don't tell them who wrote it, what educational level do they assign? Do they think, hey, GPT performs at the level of an undergrad or worse, or the level of a graduate degree holder or a doctorate or better? And TLDR, the answer is basically they think it performs on par with a master's student in the field. What app is this editor? We're using VS Code. We're using VS Code. And we're doing our initial draft in Markdown. Pro tip, Stats Model does not print a Markdown regression table, but you can print HTML, LaTeX, or plain text. And you can take the plain text, probably you can take any of them, but I tried it with plain text. Send it over to GPT-4, and GPT-4 will reformat that into a Markdown table. So you can see that's what I did over here. I have a make regressions.py. And I add the three models. There's the linear, fixed effects, curvilinear, and then the third one is sort of like a simplified version of model 2. So it actually has lower R squared, but it's easier to interpret. I swap a polynomial combo for a simple Boolean. And there's insignificant difference in the explanatory power, but it makes it a lot easier to interpret. So Model 3 is basically my favorite. And so I made this in Python, and it spits out what's called table2regressions_raw.txt. So this is the raw text representation of the regression table. And then I manually clean this up into what I call final. And what I do here is I'm deleting, first of all, the standard deviation values in parentheses. I'm deleting those. Partially for brevity, partially because I just don't care too much. It doesn't impact the interpretation or the result very much. So the result that I care about is the direction of effect and whether it's significant or not. And that's captured by the asterisks. So given that I have the magnitude of the coefficient on whether it's written by GPT, given that I have the significance and the magnitude, I actually don't care too much what the standard deviation is. Like, I don't care. So I delete those, and then I also delete all of the participant IDs, the participant fixed effects, which they're not informative as a reader. Like, I can't do anything with this. I mean, I can just speak to it in the narrative, and I can say some participant effects were important. It's like, okay, well, that's useful to know. But beyond that, what is anyone going to do with this? It's not useful information. So delete it, and then that's when I end up with this TXT form, which is under 30 lines. Oh, actually, I need to get rid of this, don't I? Standard errors in parentheses. No, they're not. We got rid of those. So the final one is edited by hand. And then I took this and pasted into GPT-4, asked it to format as Markdown. And it turned into this, which sort of looks uglier, except that you can open the preview and it looks brilliant. And so this will go into my Markdown draft, and I get to create my draft in Markdown and pop it over to LaTeX only right before publication time, which is a brilliant technique that we couldn't have done a year ago, right? A year ago, I would have been writing the entire draft in LaTeX, which is it's just awful to work in there. But now, even if I were to work natively in the LaTeX, it would be easier today because I wouldn't have to look up all these esoteric keywords. I could just ask GPT to help me format, say, a figure block. So research is easier than ever. Research is easier than ever. Okay, we'll close the other tabs. I'm going to Command-Shift-Z, which undoes and redoes just to reorient where I was. Here, I think I was speaking to Mamba and Hyena hierarchy, which are convolutional architectures. Let me get the reference. Yeah, sometimes it's called the Hyena code. Hyena hierarchy, this is the one. Okay. Just making a note of that. So this is part of my conclusions and future direction notes. And the way it's going to work is this is a draft prep notes, and I'm putting a bunch of notes in here. And then I'm going to take it over to GPT-4 and ask it to help me format this section by section into a proper paper. I've seen it doesn't do a good job if you ask it to do it all at once. If you ask it to write out the whole paper, maybe you'll be luckier, or maybe there's some magic prompt phrasing that you can use to get a better outcome. But in my experience, going section by section, asking it, print out the methodology right now, is going to do a better job. In part because if you ask it to do the whole paper, it's spreading over a small token window. Probably my paper will, we'll see, maybe not. But there's a good chance my paper will exceed the allowable context window for GPT-4 through the ChatGPT interface, which is smaller than through the API. Latterly, that him, yep, that's me. And there's even a smaller payload size that the ChatGPT interface will reply to you, which is even smaller than the token context window. So if you ask it to do the whole paper, it will give you basically a miniature paper. And that's not what you want. So instead, go section by section, and it will sort of telescope in and use up that payload to exhaust that section of the paper. And you do that a few times, and now you have a longer paper with more detail in each section that's actually useful. Is my cousin, he wanted to show me the live. Oh, y'all are cousins? That's awesome. That's awesome. I feel bad. I actually don't know how to pronounce your name. Is it Waka? Like Waka Flocka? That's crazy that y'all are cousins, though. Thanks for being here. Uka. All right, gang. Thanks. Yeah, I like some of your content. Hopefully he doesn't mind the shout out. Uka in the TikTok chat. He has some pretty funny stuff I see on LinkedIn sometimes. Okay, right. So the hyena code, or hyena hierarchy. Did I spell hierarchy correctly? It's the convolutional architecture. And then there's also, what's the new Google one? Which is natively multimodal trained. Gemini. There's also a new Google model, which is natively multimodal trained, called Gemini from Google. So we see increasing competitive attention from tech leaders in the multimodal generative space, which we can anticipate will lead to quality improvements over time. Let me get a link to Gemini. I don't know if they have a formal academic paper out. Gemini research paper, Google. Introducing Gemini. Welcome to Gemini. Okay, so let's look at a few of these and we'll grab one to reference. Here is Demis. I feel like Demis is one of the cool guys related here. So let's see if this is a citable article. I guess I can just always cite the website, but I'd rather have like an academic citation. It's not bad. It's not a big deal. I'm not a Puritan about that, but if it's available. This looks like a working paper. Is this properly published? What are you doing this for? I'm doing this for myself, basically. I want to produce research using GPT-4, and I want to be able to defend that with academic rigor. So that's why I'm doing it. From Google Gemini to OpenAI Q-Star, a survey of reshaping the generative artificial intelligence landscape. Oh, this Journal of LaTeX class files. This is a working paper too, eh? It's on archive. Okay. I get really anxious with the Q-Star stuff. Have we actually proven that they have Q-Star? I felt like last I checked, it was still in the rumor mill. Comprehensive survey explored the evolving landscape of generative artificial intelligence. Let me see if it's already cited. If it's already cited, then I feel fine. Well, senior member of the IEEE. Okay. Cited by 6. Okay. Okay. Oh, man. I feel like this is, I feel like I'm out of the AI field and it's showing right now because I'm not sure about whether I'm okay with citing them. I feel like I'm okay with citing them. Then I'll just be another economist citing an AI paper improperly, won't I? From Google Gemini, okay, this is the same paper, isn't it? An in-depth look at Gemini's language abilities. I wanted to use the word multimodal. See, look at this. Corresponding GPT 3.5 Turbo. All of the research is focusing on Chat GPT 3.5, which everyone knows is inferior. It's such a bait and switch, man. It's not, they're not doing comparison at the state of the art of the field. They're doing this like beating up the old one, which is like not cool. So that's a major motivation for my research paper. Okay. Google Gemini class of models were the first to comprehensively report results that rival the GPT series. It's like rival like the old one, man. Come on. Gemini is so bogus. Thanks, I hate it. Yeah, I hate this paper. I'm not citing your paper. I'm not citing your paper, dude. Get a better paper. I guess this is the one to cite. I'm uncomfortable because it's talking about Q-Star, but whatever. Gemini is so mid. Yeah, exactly. Hey, quick reminder, if you're on TikTok, you can go over to like YouTube or Twitch. Link is in my bio and see the full screen. Thanks for being here, by the way. Okay. This one looks like a decent paper as well, but it looks like a working paper. So should I cite it? I mean, I guess they're both working papers, aren't they? This guy's from Tehran. That's awesome. That's awesome. Emerald Insights. ResearchGate, there's the working form. And is this a published form or is this another working form? Purpose of this paper is, all right, cool. Great purpose. What is Emerald Insight, dude? What am I even looking at? Library High-Tech News. Publication date. It looks like it got published, doesn't it? But it's published to the Library of High-Tech News. Is this like some crazy journal? Mixture of experts is valid. Yeah, so the plugin Forest reproduces mixture of expert. You know what? I am so glad you used that word. Mixture of experts. Is this should be a this should be a keyword in the paper. And I don't know if that should be 1 or 2 keywords. MOE. So the plugin Forest reproduces an in context learning mixture of experts. The plugin Forest reproduces an in-memory mixture of experts because it gives different roles to different trees. Let me go to Google Scholar. And I'm going to check if MOE is what we're looking for. This is, okay, this is already terrible, isn't it? The new economics of organization is actually a fantastic paper. Oh, it's written by Mo. Small world, isn't it? Small world, 1984. The world is crazy. It was published in 1984. Coincidence? I don't know. So I'm not going to use Mo. I'm going to say mixture of experts. Yeah. Great. Oh, and there's a literature survey. That's awesome. That's awesome. And then in context learning, is it with the dash or not? In context, what about Hyena code? Hyena hierarchy. So they should have the keyword on it, I think. Context. Limiting the amount of context accessible, existing subquadratic methods based on low-rank sparse approximations. Where's your keywords, bro? Download PDF. Okay. Where's your keywords, bro? You don't, do they just not, they just don't even have keywords? Oh, man. That's fine. I should still be able to see like context learning. In context learning, there it is. It's got the dash. So the keyword looks like it has a dash in it. So let's go over to Google Scholar and confirm, but I'm expecting a higher paper count with the dash. In context learning. So here's the first candidate, and here I see what, let's go since 2020. About 4,000 papers since 2020. Now let's go for in context learning. Whoa. Okay, Google Scholar is abstracting them. The number didn't change. So basically, whether or not you use the dash, Google Scholar is going to catch your paper. But we can still see people are using the dash. So let's use the dash because we want to do the thing that everyone else is doing, right? Welcome to research. I've read that paper here. I've read that paper there talking about Q-star. You should look at the references they have. There's tons. Okay, cool. So it sounds like we're valid on that paper then. And then old account says, thanks for the feedback from Discord. Hey, what's up? What's up? Yeah, hope that helped. Yeah, everyone check out the Latterly Discord if you're interested in tech. And you can sign up for free. And the Discord is accessible under the community tab. And you're always welcome and encouraged to drop by and drop a question. I mean, we can't guarantee that someone is going to help you, but very often it is the case. Cool. I'm feeling good. How about you? Let's carry on. So we're gonna go forward with this one for our discussion on Gemini. If it seems like we spent a bunch of time carefully choosing the paper we're going to cite, we did. And that's a feature, not a bug. Picking your citations is a really important part of writing your paper. You want your figures and diagrams. You want a plausible narrative story that people give a damn about. And you want to connect to literature that matters. Don't just go cite random papers. Please do not cite random papers. Please do not publish your paper in random journals. Pick a decent journal. It doesn't need to be a top journal. I mean, if you can get there, great. Nature, we love Nature. Most of us are not getting into Nature. I doubt that I'm getting into Nature. I don't know. Talk to me in 10 years. But don't just go after a garbage journal, and don't just cite the first paper you see. Big red flags. We're trying to do real research here. Okay. Didn't I say Gemini? I guess it was over here, Gemini. So we have a citation for Hyena hierarchy, and then I need the citation for Mamba. Mamba, is Mamba an LLM technically? Mamba chat? I don't think Mamba chat's what I want. Yeah, this is the one. This is the Mamba paper. Good, okay. This is an awesome paper. Y'all should check this one out for sure. Okay. Great. So we have conclusions and future directions notes. I'm going to go ahead and commit this right now. What I'm committing is, oh, and let me also make sure the markdown form doesn't have the, yeah, participant and author fixed effects excluded for brevity. Great. So the feature, you could say docs, that's fine if you're doing conventional commit, docs or feature, whatever. The main thing is more future direction notes. Okay, so future direction notes, we'll push that up. Where will we learn how to create our own Iron Man suit? Yeah, I don't know. That'd be cool, wouldn't it? If anyone has a spare Iron Man suit, DM me and I might give you my address, although I'm more likely to think you're pulling my chain. So isn't that sad? I'll never have an Iron Man suit because the person will show up to my chat, offer me one, and I'll tell them no because I'll be too suspicious. That's why institutional trust matters. Institutional trust matters. This is why we can't have nice things, because we don't have a trust culture. Okay. So the overall approach here is, again, we're building out these draft notes. Remaining to do, I need to do that flag still, as I mentioned. And then I'm reviewing my own notes that I've collected as I go through my research. My process would be, I had a Google Doc and I would just throw notes in there. And I'm going through those currently. Let's open it up. You can take a look, it doesn't matter. I've already taken out a bunch of this, but what I'm doing is I'm literally reviewing one line item at a time. Is it still relevant? If so, pull it over into this markdown file that's going to context GPT-4. If it's not relevant, just delete it. Like GPT-4 naive baseline. Is this like really a value add line item? I don't even know what that means. So check this out. This is something that's like interesting, but probably won't make the paper. So when I was designing this study, I ended up designing the plugin forest prompt technique. And you can see this is my prompt notes. I was trying to construct the prompt at this time. Down here, the final prompt notes, I used the plugin forest technique. Oh, it looks like I have this open twice. Or 3 times, whatever. Andy Stapleton is awesome. Check him out. Let's close. Finally, AI agents that actually work. What I need, here's 4 different videos that I could cite from him. I need to consolidate and pick 1 or 2 of those. He changes his tune. So when I started my research, he basically said, can AI do research for you? He basically said no. And then 8 days ago, I'm so mad about this. I wanted to beat him to the punch, but he got me. 8 days ago, he says, now you can use ChatGPT, and he means GPT-4. And he's right. But damn, I wanted to beat him to the punch, because until then, this is 8 days ago, until then, his tune had been, the tools are not quite there yet. Or maybe there are some specialty tools. Here he talks about 3 unbelievable tools, and they're sort of specialty tools like Gen AI. But his position had seemed to have been that ChatGPT was not good enough. And I took issue with that, because I said, well, if you use ChatGPT properly, it is good enough. But now he's changed his tune, and I won't have the opportunity to change his mind because he changed it autonomously. Good for him, I guess. I don't guess. That's great for him. So he is a leader in the space of using AI to augment academic work. And he's brilliant. So check him out. We're closing this Gemini tab. We're closing Gemini. Right. We have the site for Mamba. So I've settled on this plugin forest prompt technique using plugins, but that wasn't my first pass. My first pass was that I wanted to use the browser. And I wanted to use the browser because that is a near automation of the researcher by hand approach. So the researcher by hand approach would be, let me go to Google Scholar or wherever I'm going, some search engine, an academic search engine, and let me kick off my literature review that direction. So by using the ChatGPT browser, you would essentially automate that. And the idea would be, it's hard to reduce quality when it's following the same process. Indeed, it's following the same process even more systematically and even more reproducibly than the researcher by hand approach would have been. That was the initial take, but then when I was like using it, they shut off the browser. So I don't know if you remember, for a few months in 2023, you could not use the browser. But this is an example of a limitation that I don't want to mention because it's irrelevant to my findings. So all it does is it bloats the paper and it presents in the mind of the reviewer that the actual thing that I did was inferior to some possible alternative. And indeed, now that GPT has restored the browser, an aware reviewer might say, go do it that way, and essentially make you redo the whole paper from scratch because I've used this plug-in force technique when now I could use the browser after all. So that was my first thought, and it appears as though the plug-in force was like a fallback, a capitulation, a second best solution. So I don't want to even like open that door of conversation. So I don't want to put this in my paper. Do you see the sort of political game there? All right. Thank you for the follow. So that's an interesting note, but we'll disregard it. What does this say? GPT-4 zero-shot best practice. This is a good note. And basically the idea here is that we want to use multi-shot, but we can't because context window. Here in future directions, I talk about the token limit continues to grow. It's already larger. And so here I can just elaborate. This is important in part because this is important for at least two reasons. First, researcher productivity is enhanced when entire papers can be read or drafted at once on the basis of reading multiple papers, textbooks, data reports, and so on. At once, right. Okay, and two, it's basically the same thing. It's like having a larger context window allows for multi-shot prompting with more template samples, allowing GPT-4 to produce a product that better reflects a desired target state for the paper. Great. Mohammed, thank you for the follow. Okay, so I think I took care of that. Tried enabling the plugin, but not instructing it to browse. Fine. This was the version used. The version we ultimately used, I think, was July. It is July 2023. You're writing a scope. Yeah. So we can make a note of that the model version I used was July. That would go under methodology. Oh. Was it June or July? Let's check the threads. I have the thread literal. Okay, here it is. Generated using GPT-4 with the July 20th. Right, so I used two different versions actually. That's interesting. Do I need another flag? Comparative review of the Austrian and neoclassical schools. Review of LLM best practices. This is what I mean, by the way, that plugin force simulates a mixture of experts. So the trees, so here's a journalist. So ChatGPT-4 was instructed to act as a journalist. ChatGPT-4 was instructed to act as a professor. And in that way, emulate a mixture of experts. I don't think I have enough data to discriminate quality changes between these two model versions. Because really, I could drop the LLM best practice paper. I could drop it. This is an interesting problem. What should I do? Yeah, I can check it out. And if it's underpowered, then that will be the result. It's underpowered to detect. So we'll compare this versus these two, and we'll skip this one, which mixes them. That's actually quite fun. Let's do that. Is own author flag. So another thing we need to do is analyze May versus June model. There was some discussion about weakening model performance. Why would a business, I don't even need to, why would anyone weaken the model? Claude 2 has been extending their token window and their performance has been declining, but they do it because their consumers want the big token window. So it ends up being like a business win, even though the model performance itself has dropped. And there are similar reasons they might do this on the OpenAI side, specifically to do with scaling. So if they can better scale their model, even if the performance declines slightly, that makes, they only charge like $20 a month for this GPT-4. So that might make their unit economics improve. And then beyond unit economics, response time, when the user submits, just from a user experience perspective, they want a quick response. So there's plenty of reasons that they might dilute the actual performance of the model. And there were rumors flying around that they did so at one point in time. I don't know if those have been refuted yet. There's the LLM Arena, chatbot Arena. Check this out. This is really cool. No, this can't be the right one. Is it? Should have way more stars than that. This is the one. Your enemy is a wolf. Oh, this is like a different thing, huh? LLM Arena versus Chat LM Sys Chatbot Arena. Okay. This is like a game. Your enemy is a wolf. Do I have a sword? You lose. What? That didn't go very well. Okay. You are a rabbit with a magical ability. And I win. All right. Let's do a few rounds of this. This is funny. Your enemy is a wolf of size Earth. You are a rabbit orbiting a black hole. Come at me. Come at me. Your enemy is unbreakable wall. You are an irresistible force that can go around the wall. Nice. Your enemy is Elon Musk. You are Mark Zuckerberg with more money. and health. Okay, what an absurd thing. I love that. Okay, I'm going to throw this in the Discord. This is funny. Big lulz. That's why you should join the Discord. You get fun tidbits like this. Quick reminder, if you're on TikTok, you can go to YouTube or Twitch. Link is in the bio and see the full screen. Okay, so the arena that I intended to discuss is this one, which benchmarks in the wild. Okay, let's go to the GitHub and already started. Great. Yeah, 30K, over 30K. Good for them. Very happy for them. And do they distinguish between GPT-4 by month is my question. So could they help resolve these rumors that GPT-4 has been getting worse? Oh, is it only open source? Yeah. So GPT-4 Turbo is best in class. It does. See, GPT-4 Turbo is a point-in-time model. GPT-4 0314 is a point-in-time model. Pi Day, by the way, Pi Day is my anniversary. Real facts. And so when I talk about January, February, March, where's the May one? They like didn't test May or something. So what did I say in my own notes? I said all other version used from May 24th. Which was the one from May 24th? I don't know. Was it the 3? I guess it would have been the 314. So let's say that we are comparing them. And look, isn't this interesting? We see in the arena that so there were the rumors that from May to, what was it, June or July? July, yeah. So the rumor was that from May to July, the model got worse. That was the rumor. But as I recall, and I recall very poorly, so please don't quote me on this, but as I recall, OpenAI was like, nuh-uh, it's better, it's not worse. But then Reddit was like, but it looks worse. And the interesting thing we're seeing here is that the arena ELO rating from 314 to 613 decreased, and yet the MT bench increased. So maybe there is some discrepancy between the in the wild rating, which sort of reflects the real world, compared to this, I don't know, whatever evaluation metrics OpenAI might be using. And so you could totally see that OpenAI is like, oh, this is going to be a better model. And then somehow in the wild, it does worse. That's interesting. And I guess it is worth mentioning. And here's why it is worth mentioning. Because even allowing for this performance reduction, by the way, we also see the difference between Claude 2 and 2.1. There's a decline, right? I talked about that earlier. So we do see businesses, there's so much of this fear of AI like having a fast takeoff. But in many cases, we actually see incentives for it to slow down, which are not like regulatory incentives, just like market incentives. So we see some of the slowdown, and yet over time, despite short-term slowdowns, there's the longer-term 314 to turbo, longer-term improvement. And this even gives us a estimate of the quantitative rate of performance. Isn't that wild? So here we go from about 1200 to about 12.4, let's say 8, just because it makes the percentage, it makes it a 4%. So you're seeing a 4% difference over the course of 9 months. That's not scary, 4% difference over 9 months. And we're gonna cite them just because I love these guys. This is an awesome tool and they deserve an academic citation. So let's cite them. What's the proper way to cite them? Citation, here we go. In the markdown, I'm gonna refer to this URL, but in the LaTeX, like the journal submitted paper, we would of course use the proper LaTeX representation. Okay, analyze May versus June model. So here, May GPT-4 uses GPT-4 0314. Then there is a, what was it, a June or July release? That's June. And there is a June release that was used by the July ChatGPT threads. Chatbot Arena leaderboard. There were rumors of a performance decline around this time. And those seem bolstered by the Chatbot Arena leaderboard. There are plausible business reasons why a company might ship a reduced performance model, but still we see a trend to improvement in the longer run. For example, GPT-4 Turbo shipped, was it shipped in November or December? Shipped in November. For example, GPT-4 Turbo shipped in November 2023, had better performance than than any prior model released that year. Like just any prior model period, really, than any prior model. Showing a rate of improvement Okay. But what about in my data? In my data, this is another flag comparing, or this would be a three. We would need a 3-part categorical. In my data, this is a 3-value. Oh, I really don't want to use a 3-value categorical because it's going to be collinear with the topic effect. How can I do this? I can use, I can use a Boolean which says that, sort of like a pristine Boolean, which says it was using GPT for this one. And in that way, I can sort of pull the topics 2 and 2 and get somewhat of an effect there. So we know that the Austrian paper did poorly. And previously, my explanation there had been it performed poorly because of a topical effect. Austrian literature is just a smaller, lesser studied literature. And I think that's true. But we can partial out some of that effect with this flag. Okay. What other notes? Closing. Those are some good notes. Browser pitfalls, fine. We're not going to talk about the browser in this paper. I might do a different study that uses the browser. Frankly, it's not very useful because it keeps hitting paywalls. So the plugins are useful because you can actually access like literature. Plan, execute prompt techniques, right? So this is sort of describing like the prompt force itself. Configure in plugin collections, execute tree of thoughts prompting for each, then synthesize results. Within collection, construct your trees, minimum 2 variations, implement 1 or more critics, decide between the 2 options, then create. Do I talk about role task? Yeah, role task. Okay, so I talk about it in the final notes, so I don't need to talk about it in these notes here. A researcher can iteratively run specialized prompts. Steer the browser. Nope, all this is trash. What plugins are ideal? That is a real problem. And the answer is we don't know. And so we have to brute force it right now. Publicly disclosed plugin support. Yeah, so we could do like a figure on the number of plugins over time. That might be useful. Wonder how many plugins there are now. These are good notes that I should retain. There are dozens of plugins currently available for academic research and scientific use cases. A brute force search is possible, but it would quickly become an out-of-date analysis. Yeah. So this goes to the methodology, basically. An AI-driven approach would be to ask ChatGPT about this. So I did. There's an AI for that plugin. Yep. Let me look through some of the threads. I don't know. Did I use the same plugins every time? Plugin forced identification. I think I identified different plugins. You're a researcher with formal training in economics. You have the following top level goal. You would like to write a journal quality academic paper in the field of economics. For each one of the 3 plugins available to you, list the 3 best ChatGPT plugins available in the plugin store and relevant to your top level goal. You should end up with a list of 9 plugins. What does that even mean? For each one of the 3 plugins available to you, because you're able to use 3 plugins. I think that's the idea. Okay. And then I ask it to basically pick the best ones from that. Is that what I do? How can we access these? If you cannot confirm a way to do that, please remove them. Yeah. Yeah, so basically I requested more than one because it frequently gave these like false positives, basically. Okay. How can we access Econ Biz, JSTOR, and Archive using ChatGPT plugins? If you cannot confirm a way to do that, please remove them. So it's like hallucinating plugins. Okay, great. Yeah, so basically I asked there's 3 slots to fill, 3 spell slots, if you will. And I asked for 9 because I anticipated that it was going to duplicate, hallucinate, and with the remaining variation, I wanted it to sort of rank and pick the best. So I wanted to get some sort of quality signal. Instead of doing a random pick, I wanted to try and get some like the good ones. And so this is the approach that I took, which is like an AI driven approach, is asking GPT about the plugins and asking it to basically dedupe, compare, contrast, and so forth. So that is a good note on the methodology. So I didn't use these 3 tools. Did we use there's an AI for that plugin to respond? I think so. See, it's saying unknown plugin. Oh, no. I used 3 different. I got it. I used 3 Finder plugins. The 3 plugin search tools today are, Chat Tool Finder, Plugin Finder, Pluginpedia. These are, okay. At that point in time, there were 3 plugins. An AI-driven approach. At the moment, the 3 plugin search tools are. So that's like a happy coincidence, basically. Okay, that's going to be good in the methodology. All right, and then this just says cite them, but let's figure out why. Right, yeah. This is one of the ones that talks about hallucinations now. Yeah, this is the main one. I actually know Joy, Joy Buchanan. We went to school together. And I think very highly of her, and I want to cite her paper. So hers is one of those that says, don't use ChatGPT, it will hallucinate citations. But if you look under the hood, it's using GPT 3.5, which is a substantially inferior model. And she doesn't use tree of thoughts, and she doesn't use plugins, because technically ChatGPT 3.5 can't even be used with plugins. It's a feature integrated to GPT-4. So in part, my work is a response to hers and others who write things like her. There've been plenty of people on Twitter who will say, like, don't use it. So when it says cite them, this would be more specifically background. So we can just put this directly in the background. So here in the background, one. Contraindicated. Contraindicated. So this is when I talk about lots of discussion about ChatGPT, which disregards GPT-4, the most powerful form. People say that ChatGPT hallucinates, and in many cases, it has been directly contraindicated for academic work. E.g., is it an et al., or is it just Joy did it by herself? I don't know. Let's see. Olga, Joy and Olga. Oh, Buchanan and Shapoval. That's a cool name. I don't think I know her. People say that GPT hallucinates and it's been directly contraindicated. Cool. So we can delete that note. And then what about this one? Perf concerns over time. Yep. So this is directly related to, oh, and is there a paper involved? Yeah, see, March versus June. And I think the way this works is like the March GPT-4 API is rolled out to the ChatGPT interface after that. I don't know, some period of time after that. That's great because it's good that I can connect with more literature instead of citing rumors. "80 plugins existed in May, over 400 in July. As of July 4th, now has 610. Okay. Yeah, plugin count over time is going to be interesting. Okay, so let's go ahead and break these out into interesting sort of like blocks. Plugin picking methodology. That's an interesting remaining block. Plugin count over time. And that could be for good for conclusions. Conclusions section. Plugin picking. That feeling when your mouth and brain are not syncopated. Context, it is July 2023, whatever. I don't think this matters. WebPilot seems to be the oldest plugin. Jason, what's up? How's it going? I can get rid of that. Final prompt notes. We're going to want basically all of these prompt notes for the methodology. And then this will fairly directly incorporate into the appendix. What about these? Prolific used for recruitment. Yeah. That's also methodology. Basically, prolific.com is used for recruitment, and graduate educated was with a graduate educated oversample. Prolific.com, a crowdsourcing platform, was used for participant recruitment. Participants were U.S. U.S. citizens aged 18 and over, were paid an incentive which averaged at about $15, and were oversampled for graduate degree holders. I think that's basically like what's relevant there. Cool. So 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks to incorporate, and I can basically incorporate that offline. So here we've done the notes consolidation, and let's just do it live. We'll try to grab the methodology. And so what I'm going to do is dump this, except the appendix, which I don't think is useful context for the machine. Okay. Channel effects, my own paper. Let's ignore that. Andy Stapleton, judge that AI cannot substitute. Yeah, we do want to talk about this, but it's not relevant to the methodology statement. So I'm going to prompt GPT to draft a methodology statement. So here we'll just delete this. And then the Andy Stapleton thing can be its own part of the background. Plugin force participant ID. Okay. So this is 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4 sections to incorporate. I'll put that in my to-do list. Here I'm updating my to-do. So instead of reviewing the notes, 4 sections remain to incorporate from the Google Doc. Thank you for the likes. The background section, also in background, we want to mention Andy Stapleton. Here are 4 related videos from Andy. Okay. Hey, little one, how was your day? Did you have a good day? Did you have a good day? Yeah. Awesome. Maybe. What's up, buddy? How's your day? Does my back hurt? Maybe a little bit.
All right. No, ma'am, you are not hungry. I just fed you a whole pizza. No, upstairs. No, we get upstairs. Come on.
Okay. So we'll transfer this cleanly over later. I'll probably do that offline, but for the purpose of context priming, I can just dump it, and I will. I'll basically dump all of this. This might include garbage, but I'm relying on GPT to help me sort through that garbage quickly. I will now provide various notes related to this research project. Based on the prior notes, your task is to construct a methodology section for the final academic paper. And then I'll sort of cue it by doing this methodology hash. I'll say use markdown format. Command A, Command C to get it on my clipboard in case the request is too large. And it carries on. See how it goes into a bit of a summary mode? The research questions are not relevant to the methodology section. I'm going to ask it to reprompt. The research questions are not relevant to the methodology section of the paper. They will be discussed elsewhere. Please update using an academic paper writing style. I hate to say that. It's going to do some kind of gimmicky thing, isn't it? Why is there an overview? I guess maybe that's fine that there's an overview subsection. Maybe that's fine. Okay, the study adopts a comparative approach to evaluate the efficacy of GPT-4 as a tool for conducting economic literature reviews. Brilliant. Juxtaposed against human researchers. Wait, that's a good overview, but that's still not the methodology. Oh, a comparative approach. Yeah. Okay, so if it's trying to give a high-level description of the methodology, I would have said a questionnaire design. It is a comparative approach. It is a comparative approach. That's fine. We need to mention the questionnaire. All right, whatever. It's a draft. I'm going to highly revise this thing. That's fine. Voluntariness of participation? Chill, dude. To ensure a thorough and unbiased evaluation of capabilities. Now it just sounds like a marketing spiel. Sometimes papers do that, though. That's fine. That's fine. Okay, so we'll go over here. Methodology. To do. We'll just drop it in there. Great, and then it pops back up to 2 for results, so 3 is low enough. These actually should all get an additional hash. They need to be nested further. So methodology is not a top level heading. It is already an order 2 heading, so all of these will get an additional hash to lower the order. Okay. And then I'll add into my to-do to revise. Revise methodology to refer to questions and threads in the appendix and the appendices. We should call out questionnaire design. Okay. Whatever. I think that's fine. I'll be able to take it from there. Let's take a look at this. Open the preview. So we have an abstract. Cool. Keywords. All right. Background is a list of bullets. We'll clean that up later. Whoa. That's phrased weird. They shouldn't be bullet points either, huh? That's really strange. So it's done an awful job. It's done an awful job at writing an academic style methodology. But that's okay. There's something on the paper for us to revise. And so next time around, I'm going to get this draft done, and the draft doesn't need to be terribly well formed. But then we need to pick a journal, and the paper will be tuned. It will be fine-tuned to reflect the style of that journal. At that time, so here I say tailor for journals. And then here I will try one or few shot prompting to GPT for style transfer. So it's done a fairly terrible job without examples of papers that I'm looking for. But that's okay. Thanks for being here. That's going to be it for today. I'll take care of some of this offline, and then I'll check in with you either tomorrow or the day after. So follow the channel, and talk to you soon.